Former President Trump told a group of CEOs that he intends to cut the corporate tax rate from 21% to 20%, according to people in the meeting at the Business Roundtable last week. Meanwhile, President Biden says he'd like to raise the corporate tax rate to 28%.
Nobody expected the financial magic the U.S. had to make when comparing Trump's 4 years to Biden's. It is wild. Trump's era was all about tax cuts and job booms, while Biden's term is a whirlwind of pandemic recovery and massive spending. Let's make the irrefutable comparison between the two ahead of this crazy election. Donald Trump's presidency was marked by substantial tax reductions intended to boost business spending. The key legislation change came in 2017 with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. This law significantly decreased corporate tax rates and provided temporary tax relief to individuals, which stimulated economic growth. From 2017 to 2019, the U.S. economy expanded at an approximate rate of 2.5% annually. However, the emergence of a major health crisis in 2020 severely impacted economic activity, leading to a historic downturn with a GDP decline of 31.4% in a single quarter. When Biden assumed the presidency, the economy began to recover from the downturn triggered by the health crisis. One of his first major actions was the implementation of the American Rescue Plan, which infused $1.9 trillion into the economy. This massive stimulus aimed to enhance consumer spending, bolster small businesses, and accelerate vaccination campaigns. Over the first 3 years of his presidency, the economy grew at an average rate of about 3.1% annually. Furthermore, Biden advocated for investments in sustainable energy, transportation, and digital infrastructure, which are expected to support sustained economic growth. Examining unemployment trends, under Trump, the unemployment rate was exceptionally low until the health crisis in 2020 caused widespread job losses. In contrast, Biden focused on revitalizing the job market post-crisis. By 2023, the unemployment rate had decreased to roughly 3.4%. The Biden administration facilitated this recovery through direct financial payments to citizens, enhanced unemployment benefits, and measures to support small enterprises, all of which contributed to job creation in manufacturing and service sectors. Regarding the stock market, Trump frequently highlighted its growth as evidence of his administration's economic success. His business-friendly policies helped the S&P 500 increase by about 50% by 2019. Nevertheless, the stock market experienced significant volatility during the health crisis, but managed to recover with some governmental assistance. Under Biden, the stock market continued its upward trajectory, although it faced challenges related to inflation and interest rate concerns. By early 2024, the S&P 500 had risen approximately 30% since Biden took office. His commitment to improving infrastructure and promoting green energy initiatives is designed to establish a robust economic foundation and maintain investor interest over the long term. When we examine the economic effects during the presidencies of Donald Trump and Joe Biden, we see distinct differences in the problems they face and their approaches, particularly in terms of inflation, pricing, and government financial management. Under President Trump, the rate of inflation stayed relatively low, maintaining around 2% until the offset of a major health crisis that disrupted global supply chains and led to price increases across various sectors. Despite these challenges, inflation remained largely manageable and did not escalate excessively until the economic upheaval that occurred in 2020. In contrast, President Biden has dealt with significantly higher rates of inflation, which have been the highest since the 1980s. Ongoing disruptions in supply chains have driven this sharp increase due to the persistent health crisis, heightened government spending from stimulus efforts, and international tensions such as the conflict in Ukraine. In response, the Federal Reserve took action by increasing interest rates, which are efforts that are now showing early signs of helping stabilize the economy. Focusing on fiscal policies, President Trump prioritized sustainable tax reductions and a boost in military expenditures. His key legislative success, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, resulted in reduced federal income, which was somewhat balanced by a strong economic performance prior to the health crisis that actually led to an increase in tax revenues. On the other hand, President Biden has sought to roll back some of the tax cuts implemented by Trump, particularly those affecting corporations and high-income individuals, with the intention of funding expansive public infrastructures and social welfare projects. His proposal to raise the corporate tax rate to 28% and to increase taxes on capital gains for the wealthy is aimed at financing initiatives in infrastructure and social sectors, which are projected to bring in about $4 trillion in federal revenue over the next 10 years. The economic policies of both presidents show stark contrasts. Trump focused on tax reductions and increased defense spending, which contributed to a growing budget deficit that was further worsened by expenditures during the pandemic. Meanwhile, Biden has emphasized enhancing public investments financed by raising taxes on the wealthy. While his policies aim for sustainable economic growth, there are also concerns about the potential rise in national debt. According to projections, under Biden's administration, public debt might reach between 164% and 170% of GDP by the year 2031, underscoring the enduring effects of these financial policies. During his presidency, Donald Trump put a lot of emphasis on reducing regulations and cutting taxes to boost economic growth. Before the outbreak of the last major health crisis, the U.S. economy was performing quite well, expanding at an average rate of 2.5% each year. However, the year 2020 brought significant challenges due to this health crisis, resulting in an economic contraction of 3.5%. Despite these setbacks, the economy began to recover towards the end of 2020, largely supported by government initiatives like the CARES Act, which provided financial assistance to individuals and businesses alike. When Joe Biden assumed presidency, he inherited an economy that was beginning to recover from the recession triggered by the health crisis. His administration heavily invested in economic revival efforts. In the year 2021, the economy saw a significant growth of 5.7%, marking the highest increase since 1984. This growth continued into the years 2022 and 2023, although the pace slowed down as the economic conditions started to stabilize. Biden has been a strong advocate for investing in infrastructure and renewable energy, which are expected to sustain economic growth for the foreseeable future. During Trump's term, the employment landscape was notably positive, with unemployment rates dropping to an impressive low 3.6% by the end of 2019. However, the sudden onset of the health crisis in 2020 led to severe job losses, catapulting the unemployment rate to 14.8% in April of that year. Nevertheless, the job market began to show signs of recovery even before Trump's presidency concluded. Under Biden's leadership, the job market has shown significant recovery from the downturn caused by the health crisis. By the year 2023, the unemployment rate has fallen to 3.4%. This improvement was supported by direct financial payments to citizens, enhanced unemployment benefits, and support for small businesses. Furthermore, Biden's focus on expanding infrastructure and promoting green energy is anticipated to continue driving job creation and strengthening the employment sector. Throughout most of Trump's administration, inflation remained relatively controlled, hovering around 2%. However, the health crisis disrupted supply chains and led to price increases in various sectors. Although inflation remained manageable until the disruptions of 2020 escalated the situation. Under Biden, the challenge of inflation has been significant, reaching levels not seen since the 1980s. This spike in inflation was partially due to continued disruptions in supply chains, increased consumer spending fueled by government disbursements, and major global events like the conflict in Ukraine. In response, the Federal Reserve has been actively raising interest rates to mitigate inflation, which has begun to show effects, though managing inflation remains a significant challenge for Biden's administration. Trump's policies on housing focus on facilitating conditions for builders and homeowners through reduced regulations and enhanced tax incentives. The aim was to increase home construction and simplify home ownership. Despite these measures, affordable housing remained elusive for many, as housing prices continued to rise and the market struggled with a shortage of reasonably priced homes. Joe Biden decided to take a different approach in his policies. His administration has been focusing on making housing more affordable, particularly for those who rent. One of his strategies involves preventing large property owners from excessively increasing rent each year. Additionally, Biden is encouraging the construction and renovation of affordable housing units by offering incentives to developers. These measures are aimed at providing relief for individuals burdened with high rental costs and improving the overall housing market for all. Donald Trump and Joe Biden have both influenced the U.S. economy in distinct ways. During Trump's presidency, he implemented significant tax cuts and reduced regulatory barriers, which contributed to a strong economy prior to the onset of the last major health crisis. In contrast, Biden's presidency has been centered on recovering from the health crisis, investing in infrastructure like roads and bridges, and addressing major issues such as climate change and economic inequality. Both leaders have experienced successes and encountered challenges, illustrating the complexities involved in managing the nation's economic policies. Their efforts show the diverse strategies and outcomes that can emerge from different leadership styles in guiding the economic direction of the United States. Did Trump's tax cuts or Biden's stimulus efforts better support long-term economic stability? Let us know your thoughts, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.